katika sherehe hii ya muhimu ya miaka 20 ya kazi ambayo imefanyika hapa katika conservancy hii, kazi ambayo imetoa mchango mkubwa katika maendeleo ya sehemu hii, mambo ya kilimo, mambo ya utalii, mambo ya conservation na yale ambayo yametendeka kati ya conservancy hii na jamii ya watu wa Laikipia wanaoishi katika sehemu hii. And it is indeed a great celebration that today we are celebrating 20 years of Olbejeta Conservancy. A conservancy that has stood out in the many aspects that they participate in. Today, this conservancy is home to the largest herd of rhinos in our country. We want to say to Olbejeta Conservancy, congratulations. Today, Olbejeta is home to the only 2 remaining northern white rhinos in the world. I am told one is called Nagin, another one is called Fatu. Those 2 rhinos are indeed a pride to our nation. And Olbejeta, we want to congratulate you on behalf of all the people of Kenya for being the outstanding conservation that has chosen to be home to these 2 relics of what remains of the northern rhinos in the world. As I told you earlier, we're going to work with you. The government of Kenya is going to work with you to make sure that we don't lose the genetics of these 2 rhinos. We're going to work together to see to it that whatever is required of you and us and others to make sure that we preserve this species of rhinos, the government of Kenya will play its role. You have enumerated to us the many things that you are doing as a conservancy, the combination of conservation, agriculture, and tourism that has made this conservancy different from others is indeed something that we are proud of, and I am sure many more conservancies around Kenya are going to learn from you. As you have heard, 70% of all our wildlife are not in our game reserves or in our other facilities, as public facilities. They indeed are in conservancies. And that is the reason why we took a deliberate decision as government, responding to the reality that most of our wildlife are in conservancies. It is the reason why we decided to spend public money to improve infrastructure in conservancies, especially, as was said by Minister here, in community conservancies, because they deserve our support, because they hold the highest numbers of wildlife in Kenya. And therefore, if we are serious about conservation, if we mind about wildlife, we must improve facilities, whether it is water, roads, and other infrastructure that support wildlife in those areas. I want to commit to Olbejeta that what you're doing here, you have the government of Kenya's support. It is our policy position that land fragmentation is a threat to food security, is also a threat to wildlife. And it is the reason why, for example, we have a whole housing program in Kenya, because a lot of agricultural land is being threatened by construction of houses and doing all manner of things. It is the reason why, for example, in Laikipia, we now have land to construct 4,000 units. As was said by Governor here, we started the first block of housing in Nanyuki. We have finalized the procurement of block of housing, about 1,500 in Nyahururu. We have another 2,000 housing units in Rumuruti, because progressively we want to make sure that we avoid land fragmentation that is threatening land for our agriculture and also land for conservation. And therefore, you have our support as government in making sure that we use the land we have, whether it is for agriculture or for conservation, we use it sustainably. And that is why I agree also with you that the land we have under KWS, both in Eland Downs and also in the land we have in Mutara, I have already instructed the minister here to work with her colleagues so that we create an ecosystem for wildlife here that is not only going to assist us continue to do the great job that Olbecheta is doing, but now working with KWS and working with ADC, we can build a bigger ecosystem for wildlife, but also we can fence off some of these areas that are threatening local communities where they're increasing human-wildlife conflict. I was here the other day in Marmanet. We're trying to see how we can reduce that conflict by making sure that we fence off areas so that we avoid the human-wildlife conflict. Again, I'm very confident that when finally we agree with APC and all the other facilities, we can then be able to protect our farmers, protect their crops, reduce human-wildlife conflict, and also get better returns on the conservation. That it's an ecosystem for wildlife here that is not only going to assist us continue to do the great job that Olbecheta is doing, but now working with KWS and working with ADC, we can build a bigger ecosystem for wildlife, but also we can fence off some of these areas that are threatening local communities where they're increasing human-wildlife conflict.